All right, folks, welcome back. If you watched yesterday's planning video or you're just coming back from the last coding video, we have a successful sign up in our app. We were able to go to sign up. We were able to register with an email and a password, and if our validation was correct, the sign up button lit up. We hit sign up, and we were able to verify in Firebase that we had a user and a database record for that user. And today we wanted to come back and finish the login part. So you can sign up, but when you do sign up, if you want to come back and log in, we don't have any logic for that right now. So let's take care of that in this video. And it's not too difficult because most of what we need is already in place. So if we go to our blocks and we go to auth block, we have our sign up email function right here. I'm just going to take it and copy it. And I'm going to rename it login email. And we've got our little debug statement here. I think we can get rid of that, and we can get rid of it up here and sign into. So we're still going to get an auth result back, but we are no longer calling create with email and password. We're now going to call sign in with email and password. And we're going to pass it the exact same parameters, so that's pretty easy. When we come down here to get our user, we were creating a user ID or a user object in the sign up, and then we were passing that to Firestore with an add user. But we're just going to fetch it from Firestore now. So let's move this up here and let's take away add user and replace that with fetch user, and that's going to take our user ID. So that's we can get from auth result user.uid. Now, we're not strictly using this user yet, but when we log in or sign up, and when we signed up, nothing happened other than when we checked Firebase, it was there. We got no feedback in the app. When we successfully sign up or log in, we need a way to tell this page that we're done here and it's time to move to the landing page. And one way we can do that is have a stream of our user object available for the interface, and when it sees a user show up, it will take you from this screen to the next one. And so I'd like to create that variable up here at the top of the auth block. And I'll do it after password. So we'll call that final underscore user. That's going to be a behavior subject. And the type is going to be our user object, which we modeled here in models. And we need to make sure that we dispose that or close it when we're done. And we're only going to set that from here in the back end. So we don't need a setter, but we do need a getter in order to read the stream from the user interface. So we'll say stream of type user, get user, and that will just pass out our user stream. Excellent. So when we sign in and we have this user, let's take the extra step of adding it to our user sync. So user sync.add, we'll add in that user, and we can copy that, and we want to do the same thing when we sign in. And again, we can listen to that with our sign up page, our login page, and as soon as it sees that user, takes you to the next screen. All right, so that gives us a nice mechanism to take the user to the next screen when they sign up or log in. They may also be coming into this app and already be logged in. So we may want to do an evaluation before we get to log in and decide whether we even want to go to this page or whether we want to skip it. And to do that, I'm going to have another function which asked, is the user already logged in? And I'm going to make that, now to get you a future. And it will be a Boolean. And it'll be an async. And I know I made a big deal about making everything a stream in this app, so I will explain why this one's going to be a future. So really want to do two steps here. We want to check and make sure they're logged in with Firebase, and then we want to make sure they have an account with us so that there's a database record for that user. They may be in the future logging in with Google and Facebook, and they're already logged in, which is fine, maybe through some other app, but they do not have an account with us. So that doesn't mean they're actually logged into our app. That just means they're logged in with a third-party provider. So we want to check Firebase user. And that we can get by awaiting our auth current user. So that'll return us a future. And if that is null, then we're done here. We can return false. But if not, we want to keep going. And now we want to get a user from our database. So we'll call that var user. And we will await Firestore service fetch user. And we will get our user ID from our Firebase user with UID. And if that is null, then we're also done here. We can return false. They're not logged in. But if we get this far, then they're logged in. They have a record in our database. We can go ahead and add them to our stream. And we can return true. All right, so there's two things going on there. One is the initial check that the app will perform, and the other is setting up a stream that our user interface can listen to when they log in and sign up. So let's take the second one first. Let's respond to a successful login and sign up in our user interface. So we have sign up email hooked up to our sign up button. Let's also hook this login email up to our login button. So if we go to screens, login, and we locate our button, which is here. Let me code format that so it's all here in nice rows. So we've got button text, button type, and we know that we added a new property called onPress to that, and we can pass it a function. So we'll pass it auth block login email, and we don't want the parentheses, and I'm going to format that too. All right, that should equip our login button. Now, like I said, that's going to call the function we just made. It's going to populate the user stream. We can't navigate from back here. We need to do that in our widget. And we can do that in response to the user stream getting some data. So if we go right back to where we were before, screens login, if user suddenly shows up with values, we want to get out of here. That means that the login has been successful. And so we can do that with a stateful widget. So we're going to take stateless widget and we're going to convert that to stateful. And we will create an init state that will listen to the user stream. And when the user stream has a value, it's going to forward to the landing page. So here we can create an init state. We can bring in an auth block. And we can get that from provider. So that's going to be of type auth block. And we are bringing this in. We don't have to worry about context, that we don't actually have a context in a init state. Provider's pretty smart when it comes to that. But we're only calling this once, and we really don't want to be listening to it. So we're going to add another parameter, and we'll just say listen equals false. So we're just using it to locate the auth block in our widget tree, bring it in once, because that's all we really need, and then we're just going to reference it. So our auth block has a user stream, and we can listen to that. If I can hit the right autocomplete. Bang, here we go. All right, and I'm going to call this event user and say if user does not equal null, then we don't want to be here anymore. So we will do navigator.push replacement named, and I am going to use /landing. All right, and I just want to briefly visit our routes file. So in the src folder, we have routes.dart, and we created a blank /1 for landing. I'd like to change that for both material page and Cupertino to landing. And the reason I want to do that is in our app.dart file, I want to keep the home. We're going to use that in just a minute to direct the initial landing page. And if you use home with onGenerated route, it says right here that in the directions here, if home is specified, then routes must not include an entry for /. So we need to give our routes landing page, not a /, but we'll give it /landing. That way we don't have a conflict there. All right, with that in place, do a hot restart because you changed the state of this widget from stateless to stateful. And if you remember your username and password you used to sign up with, go ahead and put it in there. And we have no error feedback, so if we get an error, it's going to be down here in the console. And I click login, and I get taken to the landing page, which is blank right now. So that's kind of what I expect to see. If I do a hot restart, it should get me back to the beginning. And there we go. That's working. And we want the sign up to do the same thing. So if somebody signs up and it's successful, we want them to be bounced to the landing page as well. So go into sign up, and we're just going to do the same thing we did in the landing page, or the login page, which is to change stateless to stateful. And then we can actually go to login and just copy this init state function and put it in sign up above the build here. And we should be all set there. All right, that's great. That's half the battle. But if we are coming back to this app and we have logged in before, we don't even want to go through this whole login sign up process. We want to call on this is logged in function that we created here. And if we get a value of true, we're just going to skip this entire process. And the place to do that is out here in app.dart. So in the src folder, app.dart, that's where we're going to apply this logic. And to begin with, we're going to come up here to the very top of the app, in our providers, our multi-provider array, we knew we'd be using more providers, and so we're going to put one here which is going to use the auth block, but is actually going to get the is logged in future started. So it's going to reach out to Firebase and try to find out if this person is logged in. So we're going to use future provider to do that. And we'll do create, we'll do context, and we'll use our fat arrow, and we will call authblock.isLoggedIn. And you do want the parentheses. In this case, we are asking that function to execute as soon as we call it. And we wanted to use a future for a couple reasons. One is we just want to check this, is this user already logged in? And then we want to get that dead wood out of our way. We don't want to be constantly monitoring that function. We just have a simple question for it. And so a future fit well for that purpose. When we get down here to platform app, we can bring in the result of that with providers. So we can create a variable called isLoggedIn, and we will use provider.ofContext to bring it in, and we will specify that it is a Boolean. And I need to actually have that inside the build. And the other reason I wanted to use a future is that I didn't want to stream the user, because you either have a user or you don't. And with a future and a Boolean, it gave me kind of three options, which is yes, the user's logged in, so true; false, they're not logged in; and also the third option is they could be, and I just haven't gotten an answer from Firebase yet. So we've really got three things we could switch on: true, false, and null are three values that we can work from, and they mean different things to us. And so I'm going to go into this home, and I'm going to check that logic here. So I'm going to say for Cupertino first, is logged in equal to null, and that means it's still checking. It hasn't gotten a response yet from Firebase. And if that's the case, then what I want to do is set up a loading screen down here. So I'll just come down inside the class, but outside of the build method. I'm just going to create a widget loading screen, and we're going to pass it a Boolean for is iOS, because we want this to be platform specific. And so we'll return, depending on is iOS. If it is iOS, we're going to return a Cupertino page scaffold with a child, with a center, and that's going to have a child of Cupertino activity indicator. So that is the Cupertino equivalent of a circular progress indicator. And then if it's not iOS, we're going to return a scaffold with a body and a center and a child widget and a circular progress indicator. Okay, and it may be tempting to put in an animation here, something kind of unique to your app rather than just a spinner. Resist that urge, because we are operating under the assumption at this point that we need to kind of drive to an endpoint to have something to show. This is where we're 3 weeks in, our boss, our supervisor, our customer, our client is going to start to get antsy because they haven't seen anything. We've given a timeline of about, I think, 2 weeks or so before we have something to test, and it's going to be a rough skeleton version. We know that. But when you present that rough skeleton version, if there are aspects like that where you're presenting a spinner, but you might want to present an animation, you can say to them, here you see a spinner, but I would actually like to do this animation, and they may see value in that, and they can actually visualize it. Whereas if you have absolutely nothing to offer them, you really aren't even able to start that conversation. All right. With our loading screen widget, we can now present that here. Is it iOS? We're in Cupertino app, so yep, that's true there. And that's a login. So if it's no longer null, then it has come back with a value. And so we can say, is logged in equal to true? Then we actually want to send them to the landing page at that point. I'm going to open this up a little bit. That's not what I meant to put. We want landing. And otherwise, we want to go to login. I need to import landing, so we can do that here. So if we haven't gotten a result yet, we're showing loading, but as soon as we do, it's a matter of, are they logged in? And if yes, send them right to the landing page, and if no, send them to login. And so we can copy this whole line and put it right down here in material as well. I need to do my restart because I changed sign up. Okay, so when I restart, it takes me to landing, which is really unsatisfying. So let me put a center widget in. I'm just gonna go to screens, landing, center, do a child, and then I'll do text, landing. And what am I forgetting there? Center, child, text, landing, scaffold. I'm missing body. And it's also not spelled Boyd. All right, so there's the landing page. And I hit hot restart, and I don't even see it spin. It happens so fast. But we are breezed, yeah. There we go. I got a little spin there. We are breezed right past that process and taken past login, past sign up, and right here to the landing page. We don't have any way to log out to go back, so we need to work on that. But we have successfully logged in, and we have also rigged our app to recognize when we're already logged in and to skip that. And so that's good. All that work we did for sign up and login is now being bypassed, and we're back to a blank screen, which is a little depressing, but we'll come back tomorrow and we'll start to work on that, and we will build the ability to add products to our database and actually work on the market end of our app. So we'll do that tomorrow. Thanks for watching. We'll see you then.